Oh, ladies and gentlemen, I am Fraud No-Go, and we are not, in fact, live for this cast, but that doesn't mean I can't bring in my good buddy Neblime. How are you, sir?
I'm good. You sort of gave it away. You're saying we. It's not just you in the room.
That's
Who's
right.
that person in the corner?
Who
How'd
is
he get
that
in here?
person in here? Yeah, and why is he in the lobby? Why is there a multiplayer lobby for this replay? Yeah, that's because we're both casting it, so... it's funny because before the advent of Crown Link, we had this weird issue where we had to set latency, which we couldn't do for whatever reason, like it wasn't working in replay mode. So we're just gonna wing it and hope that it works properly this time. Otherwise, I'll have to screen share it to you like we did in the days past. But I'm pretty sure Crown Link is gonna work out just fine. We went to double brain cells for extra security on that, just in case. But
This is the first time, right? This is the test to see if that will work.
That's correct. That's
if
correct.
We can solve Australian internet once and for all.
That's right. Yeah, it only took a man named Jesse, who has recently joined Clan Dev. Classic.
What a hero!
Classic move. So, yeah, we're going to be jumping into Dyadic Shore for the game one of this set. Hopefully, we'll be able to get through both of the matches. It's going to be the Shambler taking on Krankendau. So let's get into it. Normally I would say that the Shambler's head and shoulders favored, but I don't even know what race the Shambler's playing, and it looks like it's going to be the blue Terran, or is this Ultramarine? I can't tell. I can never tell if it's one or the other. Let's test.
How do you
it's
check?
Ultramarine. There it is. You mouse over the armor icon and hold Shift. So my instinct of it being Ultramarine is correct. Yes, and then Krankendau down here is the Maroon Zerg. A classic move there. So there you go. Apparently, Shambler's discovered interesting TV Peaches. Any comment on that? Has he done that to you?
I mean, he tried to proxy a Fulcrum against me earlier, but then he had to go like 2 minutes into the game, so that didn't work. I don't know. That's all I can say about that.
I like the idea that he does it. It doesn't work quite as well as he hoped, and then he's just like, I gotta go, bye.
Yeah, I don't know. He made a Goliath, and look, I gotta say, I don't think Proxy Goliath going to do it. I've given away the trade secrets already.
Yeah,
it's like what unit are you going to make when you proxied, right? Because Vultures, you need a lot of them. Cyclops just bad. Don't say a word, Pronogo. Goliath are the unit that can like 1v1 some units, so you may bring some Masons to repair it. So it could be a thing, but I think it's bad. But he's making the Fulcrum in his base. No TVZ cheese happening here.
Yeah, apparently not. Apparently not. We do have this map by Biddy Beat, and of course this means that we will be seeing some vertical spawn action. You made a sound of excitement. Is it because it's a pool first?
It is, which is interesting because we know Krankendau was the one who invented the Larvosk first, so it was obviously he's a proponent to it. I knew it.
Yeah,
I knew it. Look at
Shambler talking about it already.
Well, unfortunately, I don't think it's very good, but we can leave TVP behind. This is TVZ. I think it is interesting that Kraken went for the pool first, especially in this matchup, because I think against Protoss, you have the possibility of a Legionnaire running in really fast, and that can do a little bit of damage if you don't get the pool fast. And against Zerg, maybe you might be thinking about 7 pool or something. But against Terran, I don't really understand why you wouldn't just go for the fastest possible Larvos, get that economy up. But he's not saving Lava for any kind of attack either. So I think Crank just really playing it a bit too safe here. Maybe that's...
No, there it is. He actually cancels some of the workers after the Mason leaves.
Ooh.
He's mind gaming you and Shambler at the same time somehow.
All right. But I don't know, a bunch of Quasilists, are they really going to attack into the Cyclops? The only way this would make sense is if Shambler goes for a drop and like loads up everything at that exact moment, the Quas will run into his base or something.
Right.
Otherwise, I don't really see it. Like, what's the play here?
Yeah, he might have been anticipating heavy action from Shambler's Fulcrum first, expecting maybe like the Vultures to come in, but it's actually going to be a early Cyclops. This delays the Quarry, which I'm not sure Shambler wants to be in this kind of position, but for now he'll no, I was going to say he'll have a worker advantage, but that's not true because 4 workers are in production and 2 of them just hatched, so forget about that. He's going to be tied in workers, and then the Quarry taking that amount of time is going to put him behind a little bit, and now it's going to be some Vultures in the back.
All the gas from the Cyclops does delay the Quarry, compared if you get a Vulture immediately, you can get a Quarry much faster than that. Stockade coming up. I expect we'll see Cleric, so I think he's probably going to go for a Goliath Cleric type thing here. We haven't really seen proper, like, Bio-Mech, have we? With, both Bio and Mech attacking units. It usually just seems to be Mech plus Clerics.
Right, yeah, and you would think that you could find a couple of Mech units that could be on a synergistic side. I would love to see, for example, like, if you could actually lay enough traps with Vultures, I feel like that makes any other unit really good.
Definitely.
You think about, like, descending upon a stunned group of units with, like, a bunch of Harakans and Mavericks or whatever, so that could definitely help
out. Obviously at Tier 2, like all races really, you start getting gas-starved, so there's definitely a case for just making a lot of Vultures, but the problem is Fulcrums cost gas. And you could just make a bunch of stockade to make a lot of Hrakens. I know that's not what most people do right now, but if I was playing Terran, that's what I'd be doing.
Of course, yes. Yeah. No, and I think there's something to that. We did have the sort of degen-esque strat going on over here for Krankendau, as he will bring his Ovalith over for scouting, and that will be right after putting down the K-Grint on the low ground. That's going to allow him to get that little forward outpost. It feels like maybe he's been a little bit timid about expanding out. He did make a lot of quasis, so he could have had that maybe a minute sooner, or maybe that, well, maybe only 45 seconds sooner, a slight exaggeration. But just looking at the way that it is, especially with Shambler not being super aggressive, and he's going to see the expansion coming in with that Vulture, but not really a crazy amount of intel gained otherwise.
There's a Cyprian being made, interestingly. Look, I think you're right that Krankendau is being overly safe here, but at the same time, Shambler's expansion is pretty slow, but he's also not really putting on any pressure.
Yeah.
I feel like if he wanted to go straight into all the Cyclops and the Stockade, he should have been trying to come across the map a bit, or if he'd scouted something that made him think he doesn't want to do that. That said, I guess he would never get past this circus, so I don't know. It just seems like Krankendau is just pulling ahead in economy, and Shambler isn't really doing anything about it. That's the impression I'm getting.
Yeah. I mean, he will be able to keep up nicely with the Coria now finished, so he's not going to be too far behind, but it will be like a deficit in terms of Vespene income if Krankendau immediately saturates that. And he's already got his Zorkas on the way, which is kind of like the next big gas purchase I would expect from him. So that means that the second K-Grint north of the Zorkas is likely a Larvosk. He even has the Vespene already sort of saved up for it. And then if he saturates his gas in the natural, he can probably go for a nice Lakizalisk timing, which, I mean, we just saw in recent history, I don't know if you've actually caught these games between Krankendau and Hamster.
Oh, yes. I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah. I'm seeing a similar sort of composition here where it's like Cyclops, Cleric, and actually mixing in the Cyprians, even though that's a bit of a gas-intensive solution as well. It might actually make the Terran army even more scary versus things like, the Lakizalisks and the like. Just because of the fact that in order to get that crowd control, you don't actually need to wait for the time or whatever, right? Whereas the Cyclops are really good at, if you have somebody locked into a corridor or something, you can absolutely just punish them over and over again. But Krankendau's got an interesting line here of circuits being made, and he's stabbing a little bit outward to see where the enemy Terran army is.
Well, this is a great move, and this is what I was about to say about that game, is what Krankendau really needs to do is always try and get the surround, right? Yeah. And we saw him be, I would say, quite a bit impatient in that, what was it, Genesis Y game, trying to charge into the Cyclops gauntlet, if you will. Hang on a minute. Is he going to find the flanking force? This is actually huge. He was actually looking for a third base, I imagine, but this really weakens the defense a lot for Krankendau, but I don't think Shambler come in here at any rate. I mean, 3 Lakizalisk and Circus. Gotta be careful. You don't want to lose those Lakizalisk, though.
Yeah, well, the Zorius over here is just going to exaggerate the attack here, especially with those Lakizalisks finally going live with the shots. And that is just going to immediately eviscerate a couple of those Cyclops. But the counter damage is pretty damn good. I mean, you saw all of the Quasis explode almost at once. So
yeah, I mean, he lost the Cyprian, but that Cyprian was never going to make it. He was too slow. He wasn't cut out for this.
That's right.
Now, it's just the Lakizalisk relying on defense. They're fine for now. But again, I feel like we saw Krankendau commit to a fight where he was really coming on a narrow angle. I mean, yeah, he had to run away, but I think he needs to just be prepared to pull back and not engage the Cyclops until he gets the right engagement, because otherwise they're getting a huge value here, and they already have. Oh, and this might be a mistake. Is he going to lose one? No, okay, I guess.
A couple of them.
Not enough shots went down on the one spot.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's another benefit to the Cyclops, is that some of their, I would say most of their damage in many respects is the delayed damage, because it also, you have to factor in that it does splash. So if you hit a bunch of attacks on the Lakizalisk, that delayed damage is actually going to spark on to the other burrowed Lakizalisks in the area. It's like in the way that you want to prepare for it, it's not that far away from a mini Psystorm, like if you think about StarCraft 1 terms, where you want to split your lurkers in StarCraft 1 so that they're a storm apart. That's kind of like, I mean, you don't really want to do that versus the Cyclops, because then you only attack them with a couple of them, but it's a similar sort of idea, and this is a very awkward timing. At least one lake is going down immediately. Now the Ant Seals are out as well, so I feel like this is really going to start short-circuiting Krankendau's aggression.
Yeah, once again, echoes of that Genesis Y game. Krankendau really aggressive here, just charging right into the teeth of the enemy army. I mean, he's taken a bit of a forward position here, but I think he needs to be very careful, because sooner or later, Shambler will pick this apart and kill off all these Lakizalisk. The Answer's not really in position, though. Okay, Shambler does need to micro back here. Ooh, taking a bit more hits from Lakizalisk than he needed to, actually. So he does lose 4 Cyclops there.
Yeah, it looks like Krankendau wants to keep being on hot pursuit. He's got 3 Lakes in the back. Feels like with this Phalanx coming, it's definitely going to help, and that's a dead Lake is in the front there almost immediately. Unfortunately, though, I mean, if you have the ant seals on the outskirts, they can actually kind of redirect the spines a little bit. That's not what's happening over here. But yeah, with the phalanx, it actually goes unsieged, which is a little bit of a mistake, I would say. But the focus fire onto the lake is more than enough here. And, a couple of these units do end up getting down. It's just the little ticklers. And actually, that phalanx could die. He's got to be careful about that.
Yeah, need to look out for that. Okay, now we're in a battle of tanking but no DPS, so it's going to take a while. But I think Terran will be fine here. I really wish you put the ant seals in position. I got Commissioner Shambler there. He
I can't believe this is really...
Yeah, he's shooting the Rilla course.
Yeah, spectacular.
Shambler didn't really spread out an arc there, so Kizzle has killed the Cyclops really fast. Okay, now he uses the ant seal. He needs to get out of there. Oh my god, devastation.
Yeah.
Okay, but he does have another phalanx here. Finally, the Magical's here to clean up this Rillericore mess.
Yeah, that's right. They're definitely going to put an end to that little silliness. But hey, not before a phalanx shot kills another cleric, and now he's got to force a liftoff. Hey, that Quarry would be a juicy self-destruct, but it doesn't look like Shambler's going to get there in time. Oh, so many of his Masons going in a little bit too close to the sun, getting eviscerated immediately. This is somehow Shambler going from a situation where we all thought he was totally fine and safe. The reinforcement wave, that wasn't really that many Zerg out of Krankendau, was apparently more than enough to crack it. It feels like a little bit of a misfire. Yeah,
he's going to lose those because he's doing this, though. I don't think this is going to work. Well, I say that, but I guess I'm wrong. It looks like he's going to break in.
Just barely not. Well, just barely not.
That's what I get for second-guessing myself, I guess.
Yeah. Well, you also factor in the ant seals weren't in the right spots. If they were, that would have been an even more one-sided engagement, that second one. But Krankendau now has a third base. He just puts down his Iral Iris. He's got okay saturation in the minerals of the third. And I would say, he's about halfway there in the natural as well. So effectively on, a little over 2 bases. And once he starts getting gas from that third base, it's really going to start turning the screws onto Shambler's economy. He has to rebuild the quarry. He has a third treasury, but he's not really able to do anything with it. Madrigal's trying to chase down the Ovaleth over here.
Yeah, not going to get it.
Not quite.
About what we saw there, look, I think a big part of that was Shambler's macro slipping completely. He was at 1,500 minerals when they said was natural. Okay. But another issue... Oh, he's loading up. Zoryus and Zephyrcore. Zed for Zerg. Oh, he's going to come in with the Zoryus swarm, but I don't know about this. They don't really have that much power to kill workers, really. So as long as Shambler just responds, well, I guess he's going to get a quarry for his troubles.
I've never seen someone attack him with 11 Zoryus before, but you know what? Krankendau's blowing my mind. And the splash damage from the phalanx shots is actually doing a little bit on the worker line there.
Yeah, I mean, if Shambler had his Cyclops on low ground, I think he could have pretty easily that off. So positioning, all right. Look, about that, I was saying before with the Kizilisk, I feel like Shambler just didn't really respect the Kizilisk. He would let them burrow and get a couple shots before he moved. Or I feel like he needs to be like playing like Brood War TVZ, where your Marines are there and you stim and run away before the Locust even hit them, right? But he let hits go down and the Cyclops got cleaned out, then he was helpless. So I think you're right what you say, like on paper, Shambler was fine there, but now Krankendau has definitely sort of recovered a bit from the early game hiccup, and I think he's decidedly ahead. I mean, look at the worker count.
Oh, yes.
We don't have any tier 2, right? That's a big problem for Shambler, and he's still not really getting the mining going at the natural.
Yeah, he's only now sort of starting to resaturate. At least he's reset the Vespine for the most part, but he's setting his third up, and he has no workers there just yet. Big move out over here. 12 Lakizilisks and a whole lot of Zoryus. He's going to get ugly.
Mistakes shall be repeated. He's going to stand there. He's just standing there. A lot of damage being done. The Zoryus helping those Lakiz get in so powerfully. They only got one Lakizilis there, and his army's getting annihilated.
It's rough, man. This is
Furia mode.
Yeah, this is not ideal. That's for sure. I mean, I don't know what ended up happening in that engagement, but it was not in Shambler's favor. A couple of phalanx shots do go very, very nicely onto the Zoryus stack. So actually, it looks like he'll survive everything there, which was definitely more than I thought would happen. But he did end up losing a lot of phalanxes and maybe even a madrigal in the midst of all of that. So.
Well, once again, I think Cramp just seeing red and going like, I'm going to get him now, go. When I think a lot of the time as Zerg, you have to just kind of take the advantage in zone and know you're ahead in macro, which he certainly is, and not overcommit. Because now this gives Shambler a chance to come back out again, and his third will be safe. Whereas if he just like set up like a bit of a container with the kids and sent a few units over to the third, it'd be very hard for Shambler to do anything about it. But now he's going to retake this ramp position. I mean, another consistent mistake we're seeing here is he just sits on the left of the ramp. It doesn't really pay attention to the right. He had some vultures before. Some mines there would be excellent, but for now we're just going back into Cyclops and Madrigals, it looks like.
He's added a bunch of extra fulcrums, so you definitely could do it, right? He's up to 5 fulcrums with the 1 stockade and, of course, the 1 star pad. It does feel like he needs a little bit more in terms of not just tech, but in terms of production. Yet he can't really justify that right now, although he has started to narrow the worker gap. I will say Krankendau seems to have frozen his worker production, despite being on 4th, 5th base and with a worker station to give him a 6th. So that's something that he's going to need to see about evolving. And he's
that's where we saw all the money going into those Zoryus that he lost, right? And now we've got a few Gorgs. I mean, Lyralisks aren't that expensive, but they aren't that cheap. I think this army definitely outclasses Shamblers. Now, these Gorgs are probably not going to do that much, I have to say, but the Lyralisks put a lot of pressure here. You got to be really careful because you can't flee. All right, here we go. We do go Inferior mode, which actually lets these Gorgs get onto a bit of damage.
Oh, no.
The Answers can absorb some of it, but it really just depletes their shields. But oh my god, the Magical's destroying those Lyralisks.
Wow, okay, we're getting a little bit frantic over here. Krankendau suddenly not in the best of spots, losing his whole army to that 5 Anseal stack. If he had focused the Gorgs on the units protected by the Anseals, I think that fight goes very differently. That's one of the reasons why you get Gorgs in this matchup, is to really just deplete the Anseal energy through the splash, but...
Yeah.
You know, not
why not take us back to that patch where ZVZ was definitely a fun and balanced matchup where they hit air as well with their splash.
Yeah, no kidding.
Alright, he's getting positioned over here. Now, it's only 2 Madrigals, but there's so many Anseals, I feel like whatever you send, they're going to do a lot of damage before you deal with them. Look at he repositions them. The Lyralisks is going to be actually not bad with their bounces, but the problem is they do get taken out quickly by Madrigals. And yeah, the Zoryus is actually a key unit here, honestly, but there's not enough of them. And it looks like he'll lose a bit more as Shambler reinforces. He's going to take out this base.
Yeah, that's surprising. I mean, so remember that tier 2 is achieved, right? But we don't actually have anything being used for it yet besides the Calcure Lake. So aside from the Lyralisks, which were made once, we don't have any tier 2 being leveraged yet. No advanced static defense even. And
yeah, this is why I don't make Lyralisks, man. You saw my comment on the last cast. I'm like, I guess they're good. Oh my god, look at this. Oh, this is terrible.
Oh,
come on, do it.
Yeah.
Oh my god, there's nothing Crank can do about this, because he can't engage. He will never get past that Madrigal Phalanx... Sorry, that Magical Cyclops Phalanx there with his Lyralisks, right? That's just not the unit. I feel like Crank really needs to pivot into a different position. Okay, he does save some of the draw left. I think Tafalors would be key here. Oh my god, he's going in again. The Kissalists add some value.
Yes,
but my problem with them is how gas intensive they are. It's kind of where all your money is going, but it looks like it's going to be enough. It looks like he is going to break through. There's still some Anseals left here, but the Gorg Claws alone will clean this up.
Oh, 3 Lakizalisks dying at the end, though. That is a very steep gas cost right there. Not ideal. He will start to resaturate the 3rd and transfer the workers that were saved from the 4th. His 5th never really scaled up in economy. He's got a little bit of extra workers on there since the last time I panned over, but not that much. Now getting the Tethvith Swamp, this is the opportunity for him to maybe go into Vithralisks and try to splash down the army that's being protected by the Anseals. Great interaction there that I mentioned, sort of theory crafty, and then I remember Jack commenting saying, yes, exactly, I love doing that. I was like, all right, well.
Yeah, Tefzeracors would be perfect for all this Madrigal splash, right?
Yeah.
And Cyclops too. Again, yeah, I think Krankendau just has not been on the right composition for sure. And it's interesting because if you look back at Shambler and he has like 1,500 minerals in the bank. He has gotten tier 2, by the way. Not to say he hasn't been macroing behind this, but he hasn't been macroing as well. But Crank until a little while ago was like down on minerals because he's doing absolutely everything he can to try and defend and save his life. So it shows how efficient Shambler is being. Even with a bit more of a bank, he'd been staying in the game. Look at this. Captaincy's being built on the map. Why? I don't think this is where you want your captaincies. I mean, I guess they're only minerals, so it's not that bad to lose them, but you don't want that production to get camped in the middle of a critical moment. And he's got plenty of space in his base.
Yep, well, he's adding 3 mantles in his base, so those are most likely cataphracts, if I had to speculate. And
let's see Ramses.
Well, sure, yeah. And captaincies can help him spend some of the minerals down. You know, I know they're a spectacular unit that everybody would make, but honestly, if you really need to spend those minerals, think about a Heracles. Nobody thinks about the Heracles.
It's so bad, man. They're actually worse than Cyclops, dude. Don't make that unit.
Well, hey, Cyclops is apparently meta now, which is kind of spooky.
We were playing Evolves, right?
Yes.
And I was ahead, and I got to Heracles, and I'm like, oh, I guess I just lose now. I couldn't get past that. I was just stuck. I got past Cyclops fine.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Here's the Tefzoracors, by the way. But still, the Lyralisks backing them up. I don't think it's the play. I mean, Backlist wouldn't be ideal, but I think that would be better than Lyralisks here. Like I said, Protafalors I think would be a good option. Oh, that's so many Anseals, though. Synchrolisks would be quite good if you can get them close enough. I think a lot of... Oh, wow, the Borgs, I didn't see
Yeah,
that.
they're hitting the third or fourth base here for Shambler, so he's kind of caught between a rock and a hard place where some of his units are going to be heading in that direction to try to defend. I say that, but they're not really doing anything like that right now.
Those Gorbacores can never kill those Ant Seals. It would take like 10 years. Oh, he's going to go to the next base too. The Watchdogs are not ready. He's going to get a lot of worker kills here.
Yeah, that's right.
And,
heckling the fifth base. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, they will eventually get destroyed, but, getting a bunch of extra worker kills there is definitely going to be helpful.
Yeah, there's not that many of them. A few Watchdogs can fend them off. It just gets a few more worker kills for his trouble, and honestly, these Gorbacores do not have a lot of long-term value, so trading them is fine, I think. I mean, look at Shambler's army. Ignore the Phalanx army off to the left. Look at the army on the right. Like, no amount of Gorbacores is ever going to do anything to that, especially if it goes back to Imperioso mode.
Yeah, no kidding. His Gorgs can at least be somewhat valuable, trying to heckle this treasury in the upper right. But, yeah, kind of interesting we're seeing a longer game on this map where we're sort of stretching outwards to the right of the map. That's probably what was originally envisioned in some ways by Biddy B. You got a cheeky Quasi stopping the base.
Oh my god, that Lyralist.
Yeah.
Was that deliberate? It tanked every single Phalanx shot.
Yeah.
Here come the Lakislas though, but they're coming in the front. They just get annihilated by Magicals and Phalanxes alike, and once again, the DPS can be insane here. The Tepsoracores are very tanky, but they're not that tanky. But the Gorbacores coming out of nowhere, are they enough to break through?
I feel like they are. They've been doing a lot of splash damage and finally carving through some of what the Ant Seals were protecting. There's no more Cyclops. You got a couple Phalanxes in tank mode, but it's not going to be tanky enough. And even though all of the gas-intensive units, for the most part, are taken care of, we got some Oxal units coming out, the Calculusks getting plenty of value there. I want to say that Crank is an Oxal Cesiant type of guy, and indeed he is. He's got two of them in the main.
Well, the Ant Seals survived, though, so, I mean, Shambler's still in it here. He's got the magical count, I think, to stay alive. A couple of Apostles, which is good, but I would love to see the Madcap count get a bit higher, too. Combine the Madcaps with the Phalanxes, and it's very, very hard to engage, especially with, like, 8 Ant Seals on top of that. So, Shambler has to rebuild his army here. And what is Krankendau investing into now? He's just getting the same units, not saving for tier 3 here. Slowly getting more bases, but not droning them up really fast. But once again, the Gorbacor's looking for a base out here.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, he's just sort of stretching out on making sure that the upper right is not going to be saturated, but there's no workers there right now anyway, and hardly any at the fourth base, funnily enough. So, yeah, Shambler might be ahead in workers, but he's definitely not been saturating the right bases with them, it feels like.
I don't know about these Durandals, man. I think they're not going to last very long. Shambler doesn't seem to be keen to engage here, and with the Apostles, it could be a big problem if he does. Somehow that course didn't get claimed. I'm not sure how.
The way that the Apostle has been reworked too, I believe in this game that we're watching right now, it's already on the current version where they reveal or they reclaim units around them when they shoot, sort of like
Oh, so it's like how it used to be. It just doesn't cost energy.
Yes, that's right, and it's on their weapon attack. So it's based on. So if you like attack speed increase or whatever for like using in a team game where you got the Hierophants out and you're avenging or whatever, I don't know, some funny interaction like that would increase the reclamation rate in theory. But yeah, as of right now, it's pretty sure it's like that. So you go Apostles when you're trying to force multiply yourself, and you go Autocrats when you're got a lot of Vespine and you want to steal your enemy's units for the most part. So.
Well, we don't have any add-ons for now, but I think Madcaps are definitely a key unit here. I just
right.
think Durandals... Well, hang on, he's going to come in here. Once again,
big burrow on the right.
Stat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you can hear the reclaiming going off, but I feel like there's not that many Apostles actually doing it. We'll keep tabs on them. There's still 3 of them around right now. Restacking those Madrigals and taking a couple of Gorgs on the way.
He crushed it. The Durandals like chewed through a lot of stuff. The Madrigals stayed alive with those Ant Seals, did their damage. It's a pretty good combination, Ant Seal Madrigal.
Oh yeah, and the Durandals, right? Because you incinerate all the armor for the Zorius, and then the Madrigals are doing crazy damage, right?
I can't see kills on units, can you?
Oh yeah, no kidding. I probably made the game in the wrong game mode or something, but it wouldn't change anything in the game. It's just, just blocks the kill display.
All right, finally, Shambler's fortifying his outlying base. Got a couple sentinels. He's making the Ministry wall. Still no Watchdogs over there, though.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just idle treasury in the top right. He's completely forgotten about it, apparently. Got a lot of money in the bank. Gas caps coming out from Krankendau, keeping his money somewhat low.
Whole time, I thought those were Shambler's Lakislas. I didn't realize they were still Cranks.
Oh, yeah, he just had them. Yeah, that's something I've been thinking about, is we probably need player color burrow.
Yeah, that's a good idea. All right, Shambler's going to come up here and attack again.
Yeah, that's right.
The same army once again. Many Lakislas, but they're
my God.
Yeah, the Ant Seals absorbing a lot of damage there. so many Ortiz falling, and even he's reclaiming Tef Zoracors. That's how you know you're in trouble.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to be such a strong front line. Cleans through absolutely everything. Crank GG's.
Yeah, listen, not much he could have done apparently in that situation. I'm really surprised that the Shambler held on long enough to win that game because he was so far behind at the start. And, that maybe we never see this replay if Krankendau has that killer instinct in him a little bit more, right? Like you were talking about how he was maybe a little bit too aggro,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You don't want to encourage him to attack in too much because I feel like he lost because he'll get ahead, then charge the army in and lose the entire army and have to remake it instead of making Joel left. Also, I think the problem was far too narrow of composition options he was using. I feel like he wasn't thinking about a lot of units he could have used there. That would have made a big difference.
Indeed. Well, we are going to Axiom, which is another 2-spawn map here for game number 2.
Oh, I didn't realize we had a series.
We do, yeah. We have a second game here.
What's that?
So
Sorry, did I say Starcraft? What's that?
I don't know what that is, but whatever it is, it sounds like old news. This is Cosmonarchy.
That's right. Some game from 1998. Who plays that?
Yeah, it was pretty funny because when my brother started playing this a little bit, like a couple of years ago, I was like, he started asking about like, oh yeah, so they made this when Jesus was still alive.
Pretty much.
He is. I missed out on the Zoomer declaration by like 2 or 3 years, I think. Like I'm at the very end of millennial, but he's firmly in Zoomer camp. So.
Oh yeah.
You know how it is.
Well, I got a sister that's substantially younger than that, and to her comments on StarCraft, she's watching me play one time, and I was playing ladder, and she's like, "Are you winning?" And I'm like, "Well, no." She's like, "You're never winning." I'm like, "Oh, why is a 10-year-old destroying me?"
You're never winning. Well, if only she could see you in Cosmo, where you've won the last 2 tournaments.
Yeah, right.
So, come on, right? Come on now. All right. Well, we're going to Axiom. We're going to see who's winning. Which one your 10-year-old there will be correct about this time around. We have the Shambler in the top right, and we have Krankendau in the bottom left. Looks like the same colors. I don't even have to guess. You can just write the comment now, Luciferious. Pronogo color guessing 100% because Shambler is ultramarine. I'll do it for the sake of it. Ultramarine, and of course, maroon Zerg.
Well, yeah, because they choose them, I guess.
Yeah. I told them they're making it too easy on me. You can't just be maroon every game or whatever. You gotta set up a couple and then do the shuffle. You can do a shuffle where it randomizes between the ones. So.
Now, this is old school, man, because I know Axiom was out when this game was played. So,
yes.
What are they doing? Why are they here on Axiom? Min Axiom? I don't know.
Yeah. Mincium. Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because they do have different vibes to them, and I think you played a little bit on the new Germination, but he has been revisiting some of the older ones.
Oh yeah, it's great. I recommend people go play on that. It's in Class 2.
For now. Something that...
Yeah, that's right. Soon to be in Class 1. Catch it while you can.
Yeah.
Is Axiom staying in, by the way, or is it being demoted for the next tournament?
Well, the thing is, the concept behind the class system is just that Empire class are maps that I would be comfortable running a tourney on. For something like an Acropolis or whatever, and I feel like we're just going to keep getting more maps like that. So the thing is, you would never have Axiom and Maxium in the same tournament, right? That wouldn't happen.
I agree.
But maybe we keep them both in because they both provide something a little bit different. I mean, I feel like Axiom as a 2-spawn map is, it's pretty reasonable as far as a nice middle ground between something that you can go long on, something that you can be aggressive in the early game on. It's not obviously the more extreme example historically based on how people have played it is Fata Morgana, where that's a super aggro map. And then Sideshow, which is maybe a bit too defensive, or Germination was another one that was maybe too defensive. So, there's a couple of considerations there.
I think it is too defensive, but not in the same way as Sideshow. I mean, later in the game, it's very easy on this map to block off all the ways in with static defense.
Okay. And that's different on Axiom, right? So.
Yeah. Well, because it's 4-player, you could just go expand somewhere else, and
right.
There's more of the map to worry about. So it's harder to do that. I mean, still a factor on Axiom for sure. Mm-hmm. By the way, Crank, he's become that which he hates most.
That's right.
The Shambler.
Well, the Shambler spot was the spot in the military move out, and Krankendau just unburrows to do the rescout. But yeah, I listen. I do the same thing. We're gonna have to start redoing the Easter egg unit names and have it be Zerg Krankendau instead of Zerg Shambler. Zerg Crankleth.
Yeah, back about the map.
Sure,
I've played many a game with Hamster among other people on this map, and I think it tends to like locking it off and going for tier 3 for Zerg is very effective. And honestly, Jack Ilansky, if you've seen how he's been playing recently, is really, I think, mastering the sort of play where you just spend so many minerals on static defense in where your army won't be, and you worry about the army in the other half, and it's so hard for Protoss or Terran to do anything about it. And I think this is the kind of map where we see that kind of play. So, in my opinion, it's a little bit past its prime for tournament play. It's still the best map made for Cosmonarchy yet, of course. But
okay.
I think it's been played out enough.
Yes, yeah, that's a factor, right? You know how many games have been played on a map. Yeah, so definitely something to keep an eye on. Drop. It looks like it, right? He's got a lot of them, more than enough. And you've been exposed. The Cyclops have LMAO'd. You know, the typing continues. By the way, I do like that we casted that first game on Dyadic Shore, and of course Shambler opens it up with typing. Like, even though it wasn't typing in his normal stance of typing, it was still typing. So just want to point that out.
Man, I thought that K-Grit was blocking the expansion for a bit, but it's not. That's space.
It's fine, yeah. Just
so I gotta wonder, when you see so many Cyclops, right, are you thinking it's going to be a drop? I don't know. He doesn't seem to be preparing for it.
Yeah, I don't think so. You might even expect that means that there's a second Fulcrum if you're not, like, super on the ball. Hang
on. Who's dropping? Who's dropping Cyclops? Yeah. Boy, that's a terrible move. He's getting an Anseal, obviously.
Ah, yes, of course. Yeah, no, I had the same comment about Hamster building an early star pad. No, he draws a little line. Oh, he could have just chased it. I like the little echo there. It's like some weird line.
This could be rough. He gets 2 Anseals up and continues to make them. He can pressure the Circuffs, maybe. I don't know. It's going to take a lot of micro, though. It's quite fiddly to do that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it's definitely possible. I mean, the Quasis are not going to stand up to the Cyclops horde, so that's certainly absolutely something that you got to watch out.
Yeah, you need Hydra here. And you know what? This is a big stylistic difference in myself and Crank, I think, is that he doesn't really like to go for the Hydra. I really like to rush for Hydra on one base. Yeah. And Shambler really is adapting to that. The Lakizilisk are sort of the alternative that give you the sort of longer range and less vulnerability to splash than Quas units. I'm not a fan, though, because I think you commit so much gas into them, and ultimately they do get traded off, and you just delay your tier 2 and everything else.
Yeah, I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking to myself now that, Shambler can absolutely pressure these circuits. He needs to get that Anseal back up there. There we go.
No, he needs to get out of here, because his quads are going to come in and do damage.
Yeah, they are.
Pull back. He overstayed his welcome a bit there. You need to go in and out while the energy's coming back. He did not even fully regenerate the energy. He's going to lose that Anseal if he's not careful. Like, it doesn't target it. But look how many Cyclops he lost.
Yeah, just for one circuit and 2 Quas. Yeah. I don't know if that was
way too aggressive from Shambler. He needed to sort of treat it like Protoss Shield, where you come in, take a few shots, go back out.
Yep. Would have been a good option. Would have been one. But you know what? I mean, we already have this Quasi. Something that I forgot to mention that both players were doing that is like a little tidbit is that Shambler had like a mine behind his mineral line in the main and in the natural, just in case of a drop. And the same sort of thing happening for Krankendau with he's got his patrolling Quas. The only thing about the mine that's a little silly is that when you're dropping a Zerg, it's with a detector, so you would see it. Yeah. But, I think it still blocks off an area for you to drop. Like, you still can't drop there, even if you can see it, so...
I think the one in the natural in particular, he was kind of just hoping to spot the overlap if it was coming in. But yeah, the one in the main, you're probably right about that. It's interesting because Crank did get the Circuff in the main. That does deny Cyclops drops pretty hard. So he was definitely thinking about it. You definitely think about it if you start that in Cyclops. It's pretty strong.
Yes, yeah. And when you see the Anseal as well, you know that there's always the potential for a Trojan. Now, that being said, Shambler hasn't really incorporated drops into his play that much. I've seen a TBT where he's done it a little bit, but he hasn't really done many Terran drops, and really that many drops in general, but especially as Terran, it feels like that's one of the things he almost never does. Just like how he almost never made Lakizilisks as Zerg. And these are things that he doesn't necessarily stylistically jive with, but that does kind of hold you back if you're not able to sort of move past that from a standpoint of like, oh, I don't really like this gameplay pattern from a...
Well, that's me. You're calling me out, right? Because I never make Lakizilisks. I'm not a fan.
Yeah, and
definitely
it can hold you back. But, the good thing about Cosmonarchy is that since there's 50 units per race, you can probably find something that kind of works out a little bit. You might, maybe it's like 80% as effective, and maybe you can bump that up if you execute really well with it. So I don't think it's actually that big of a deal, but it's just one of those things where the drop angle in particular, as an opponent of Shamblers, you can kind of rest easy that even if you see the start pad, it's not going to happen. Now, if Shambler ever does correct that, that'll be the blindsided, immediate tournament victory or whatever, because nobody will predict it if he saves it all the way to the finals or something. But, that's
well, you know what I call this? I think you call this like ramen style, because he was the first one who started really massing the Aeon Seals and putting them on top of the army.
Yes.
It's very intimidating. Newt definitely picked up on it as well.
Yeah.
But I'd say ramen is still, even now, I think, still the biggest fan of it, although every Terran player sort of absorbed it a little bit. Now, I think it's actually not that good against the Kisselis, right? Because the splash will deplete those shields. Oh my god, I can't believe we let that live.
Yeah, he's fine. He's like, yeah, whatever. You're bruised now.
But we do see Crank being a bit more defensive here, which is, I think, a key thing. As long as he doesn't charge into the prepared Terran army with the Kisselis, I think he's going to be okay here. What did he just build? A lot
six Zoryus. Yeah, I think he saw that he and a couple of workers as well. He just was like, oh, I got a lot of minerals. I better spend this immediately.
Could have made a zero cores if he had a Hydro.
Could have. And the splash damage is a little bit more effective than you might expect versus Terran specifically, because the clerics kind of get like confused.
Well, especially Cyclops, because they are weak. They're begging to be killed.
They are, except the Ant Seals are kind of stopping you from doing that. But that does
moving
require.
Out here, though.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know about this. Unless he burrows, though. He's very clustered up. He's going to charge in, but the Cyclops could lay down a lot of damage here, although Shambler needs to be careful. Not the best micro there, not the best stutter stepping. I think he had the Ant Seals and the military units together on a group.
Yeah.
He does pull back, stays alive here. There's the reinforcements. He's going to need a bit more to fight this, although he is getting the units all strung out.
Yeah, listen, he's chasing them all the way across the map, and finally a little bit of a turn as some of these Lakissilisks are very low, but they'll end up getting burrowed anyway. A bunch of Cyclops going down. A Goliath as well hitting the deck.
He's the formation.
All right, let's get those Lakis burrowed. Only a couple on the left-hand side. They're going to be evaded immediately. One on the right.
Yeah, good micro so far from Shambler, pulling back, letting them in. Now the Kisselis are exposed. They're not even burrowing. Like, a couple burrow in a great spot to do damage, but they also will get taken out really quick. And now, the Zoryus will not be able to break through these Ant Seals.
No, not even close. And they won't be able to escape either. That's a little bit rough, but he scouts the quarry coming down on the third base. They could have escaped, actually, those ones in the bottom, but they decided to go back in for good measure.
Ooh, there's an Eidolon out, and he's not staying home. He's going somewhere. But that said, there's no anvil, so what is he doing? I guess he's killing that one.
Annihilated a Quasilisk is what he did, apparently. Yeah.
Special forces. He knew it was there.
Yeah, he was operating on intel. While the Irolaris is out before the Atlas, because we do have these covenants being sort of brought on in. And you know what? The Eidolons are here to snipe the Lakis, but I feel like actually Shambler hasn't been doing too hot, or hasn't been dealing with like a large amount of Lakis to the point where that's really been a disruptive force. He definitely gave them a good amount of respect, but he was able to defeat them. And now it's 20 Zoryus, Neblime. 20 Zoryus.
Well, he spent all his gas on the Kisselis, then tier 2, so what's he going to make? Right? This is all he can make. He can't make Quasilisk because the Cyclops would just annihilate them. I mean, this is a lot of HP to chew through. Okay, he did make a few more Kisselis. I don't know about this. Unless he gets like a good surround, I feel like it's hard to get any damage on, especially with these Ant Seals. We're up to 7 Ant Seals here.
Yep.
And so that's doing what he can.
The little the little comment here to make is that in TVZ normally you talk about managing the science vessel. If you're thinking about Brood War, Ant Seals are kind of like that, right? Like you really want to keep that count low if you can, and there was the opportunity to pick one.
Seraph count low.
Well, for
That's
sure.
For sure.
Yeah, once those come out, it's a bit of a different story. But both of our players on 3 base. The worker at 6 o'clock thinking about expanding Krankendau's economy a little bit. But tied up on workers. We got a little bit more coming here for Shambler, and his ministry is almost done for the 4th base. So he's actually ahead in terms of economic tempo. In the last game, he looked like he was dead to rights. Krankendau doesn't look dead, but he certainly does look behind in the early stages. And I don't know if that means anything. Maybe that just means that we'll be looking at Krankendau reverse it if the trend is going to continue. Calculator Lake on the way.
We don't have the Palladiums, right? Instead, we're making the Eidolons. And, I mean, so far that's going to be fine, but depending what Krankendau goes for here, I don't know how strong they're going to be, because once you lose one engagement, they're just going to die, right? They need a front line. And we don't have tier 2, do we? So what is Shambler's plan here? We got a lot of more Stockades and even more Fulcrums as well. Bunch of Goliaths plus Eidolons I think would be okay. I mean, that is a lot of Zoryus. You do have to respect them somewhat. Shambler is sort of out of position too. I think he needs to get back to a more defensive spot before he gets caught out. Although it looks like he's going to go for the attack. There's no Sentinels because there is no tier 2. There's a bit of an army on the ramp, which probably is okay to defend, but that's so many Zoryus, dude.
Yeah, the problem is these stockades are going to work wonders as a wall. I think that will allow Shambler to recall his force, or he can just go for a trade and then shuffle the rest of his forces over from the rally point. The Atlas now goes down in the main.
Okay, but he can just kill this stuff with nothing behind it. I mean, it's not going to last that long.
Yeah, fair. You know, there's a couple Eidolons on the other side. Actually, more than a couple.
Yeah,
we're talking about 7 Eidolons over there. So, you know, as long as he can keep them at an arm's length, but I'm not so sure that the answer is yes. He's got 3 anchors being set up, but there's already a hole in the wall, and the floodgates are opening. Neblime, we've got the lake is burrowed on the front lines, and only 1 Anseal back at home. All of the other ones, they're screaming back in, trying to defend, but there might not be anything there when they finally arrive. The Zoryus descending upon the Eidolons. There's defenseless.
Oh, yeah, no, Zoryus' natural counter to Eidolons there. Absolutely swarm them. The Anseals are here. We can save him. There's 1 guy left. He'll never die. Oh, he's still dying.
No, the Goliath ends up getting killed. No, he's just out. He's out.
Well, the army is returning.
Well, there's Lake is in the main and in the natural.
I mean, it's... Oh, wow, how did that get there? Yeah, that's a lot of worker deaths, man. Okay, so I think his army clears this, because he's still got a feudal army. Oh, doesn't have detection. That 1 Lake is killing so much. Someone stand on him. Oh, my God.
well, here's the typing.
That's how you know Shambler's in trouble, because he's typing.
Well, you know what? He does have a good point. He didn't really have good coverage on the main in the middle of the map.
Well, his army was just on the right side of the map. What can you say?
That's right.
Yeah, he got an in-progress base, but that's the kind of situation when you send like 5 or 6 units, not your entire army.
Listen, what I do like about that situation is that we got to see some nice back and forth, and just like I sort of jokingly predicted, but maybe not so jokingly, Shambler makes, Shambler looks like he's in a nice position for to command a lead, and he's the one who gets reversed upon, just like he did in the previous game. So some funny stuff.
Those walls were really nice. They made a big difference. Shambler, I think, is the master of just building buildings to block the enemy. I think he really has been the one pioneering it, especially with Protoss as well.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely a big fan of the walls in the middle. I remember Hapsea commenting that, he's used to StarCraft 2's much more fluid pathing, and then he's like, well, you need a perfect wall. Well, in Cosmo and in StarCraft 1 as well, you think about it, like, if just making it more annoying to get into the area is going to frustrate the pathing enough to be very effective. You don't need the perfect wall, and that's what Shambler.
Well, it's totally a strat in Brood War. You just put, like, a depot. Yes. You don't block everything up, and it's like, that screws Protoss up so much.
Yeah, absolutely. You think about even in PvP, you put down the 1 pylon in the natural.
Definitely,
like
definitely.
A bunch of Dragoon shots. Yeah. So, similar kinds of things, and definitely some nice lessons for anybody else who's watching on. Nice that Shambler's playing some Terran, and Hamster's also playing some Terran, because obviously Aoud is in the mountains somewhere, and, Mystery Meat is still locked out of his apartment. We got Top Ramen is the last man standing, because Newt's, shout out Newt, he's out. You see ya. And
He's at the cannon until we hear from him. That's Mr. Meat's still locked out.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's just the situation. All our Terran players are dropping like flies, so it's nice to have a couple converts, as well as, of course, the return of Ramen, who came back a couple weeks back. But hey, Neblime, thank you for joining me for this. Definitely looking forward to seeing some more games featuring you, and either as a caster or the player, or both. What if that happens? You can just commentate, and Neblime's over here doing this. It'd be a great time.
Definitely.
All right. GG, boys. We'll be back tomorrow for more Daily Cosmonarchy.